I know who is going to win the Super Bowl this year, and it's the... Alright, not so quick. That's a crazy thing to say, right? I mean, how could I know? I'm not a genie, I'm not a wizard, I'm just some guy on his computer who likes data. But if I could take a whack at it, I would begin by looking at numbers and statistical trends collected over hundreds of NFL games to make my ultimate guess at who would be racing the Lombardi next month. What would that look like? Well, let's take a look at what I can cook up. If there was a silver bullet that could definitely show who would win the Super Bowl every season, there would be like 3 analysts in Vegas living in like Elon Musk right now. Unfortunately, it isn't quite that simple as numbers lie. Just like with everything else in our world, sports is too random and unpredictable to just find one stat and put all your money behind it. I mean, there wouldn't be a whole betting industry if this was easy, right? But with the playoffs starting this week, I had to ask, can you possibly make an accurate Super Bowl prediction by just looking at numbers in a spreadsheet? I could just take a guess right now, as I'm sure many of you out there have, but I just want to be a little bit more scientific, a little bit more nerdy, and only go based on the hard facts of stats. I mean, someone has to have gotten this thing figured out and has a good starting place we can go off, right? UC Irvine data scientist Matthew Littman applied machine learning to predict the winner of the 2019-2020 NFL Super Bowl using advanced statistical methods and decades of data. Drawing on multiple datasets spanning NFL history, Littman employed techniques such as recursive feature elimination (RFE), the K-nearest neighbors algorithm, and neural networks to identify key performance indicators like margin of victory, win-loss records, and other team statistics. His analysis revealed strong correlations between regular season success and playoff outcomes, with records like undefeated seasons or strong scoring differentials playing pivotal roles. One of Littman's notable findings was the importance of column selection in determining predictive accuracy, with his novel RFE loop method outperforming traditional feature selection techniques. Despite the complexity and rigor and confusing words I just said, the model's final prediction of the Super Bowl winner, the San Francisco 49ers, proved incorrect, with the third team on Littman's list, the Kansas City Chiefs, becoming the actual champions. Another data expert, Sam Leventeff, conducted a similar experiment for the 2022 season, though he was only focusing on the Super Bowl. Using Python and random forest classifications to predict the Super Bowl outcome, Leventeff focused solely on regular season statistics, such as rushing yards, passing yards, and turnovers. His model predicted the Philadelphia Eagles would win the Super Bowl with a 73.6% accuracy rate, which would also be wrong, as the Chiefs would again go on to win this Super Bowl. I'm starting to think this Patrick Mahomes guy is pretty good. So if even some of the most advanced statistical data models and best experts can't confidently predict the result of a single game, why would I continue looking into this? I don't know, maybe I just have a problem that should be treated. All I know is that they were wrong, but does that mean I can't be right? Probably, but that's what Twitter's saying. I'm about to crack the code, dang it. Since we have looked at some data models and some flaws with past predictions, let's see what folks are saying as they project this year's Super Bowl winner. The Athletic, one of my favorite sports journalism websites, predicts the Chiefs have the best chances to hoist the Lombardi Trophy next month, closely followed by the Lions, the Eagles, the Bills, and the Ravens. Some surprising things to note is that, like many fans, the Vikings are viewed as frauds, with them being tied with the Buccaneers with the 6th best odds of winning the big game. And according to The Athletic, the Steelers and Broncos both have less than a 1% chance of finishing the year on top. The Athletic also calculates the odds of each team winning their wildcard, divisional, and conference championship games. According to this metric, the Ravens, who have the 5th best odds of winning the Super Bowl, are the most likely to advance to the divisional round, while the 14-3 Vikings only have a 52% chance to get past round 1. However, the Chiefs still have the best odds to make the conference championship and the Super Bowl, as well as having the greatest shot to win it all. Still, since we are talking about predictions, we can't forget about the odds makers down in Las Vegas. These nerds will bleed over data just to try to get the upper hand on how long the national anthem will last. So why wouldn't they be at the cutting edge of this conversation? They've got to have the top minds in the world, right? I mean, heck, Lions have the best odds right now across most sportsbooks. Cue the Fry take my money meme as I'm all in, baby. See you in Maui. Alright, in all seriousness, based on the preseason Super Bowl odds from the past 10 years, the preseason favorite only ended up winning the championship 3 times, though a team in the top 4 preseason odds ended up winning 8 of the past 10 titles. This season, the top 4 in preseason odds were the Chiefs, the 49ers, RIP, the Ravens, and a tie at 4 between the Eagles and Lions. So now that we've looked at a few trends and I've thoroughly explained how difficult of a task this is, let's build our group of stats that will predict the next Super Bowl champion. The method I'll be using in this video will look at certain requirements that majority of Super Bowl champions had in a way to eliminate the frauds from the true contenders. So the metrics I will specifically be using are team record, playoff seeding, margin of victory, and simple rating system that will be taking into account both offensive and defensive ratings for SRS. First, let's take a look at what I mean by regular season record and playoff seeding. First, in the past 10 years, the first seed won the title 5 times, the 2 seed won twice, and the 3, 4, and 5 seeds won 1 time apiece. So based off this, I would not place my bet on the 6 or 7 seeds this year. This eliminates the Commanders, Steelers, Packers, and Broncos from being considered as true contenders this season. Adding on to this, none of the Super Bowl victors from the past 10 years had less than 11 wins or more than 14. While I could use this to eliminate the Lions and Chiefs, I feel like that's a bit much to purely eliminate both number 1 seeds just because the record was too good. So they will stay past this round. However, those 10-win teams are not so lucky. Bye bye Texans, Rams, and Buccaneers. With those teams eliminated, we already cut the field in half with only 7 teams left. The next thing I want to look at is margin of victory. This simply looks at your average points scored per game and your average points allowed to assign you the average points you won or lost your games by. Looking at an eliminated team, the Buccaneers, they had a margin of victory of 6.9, which is just their average points scored, 29.5, minus their average points allowed, 22.6. For the remaining 7 teams, this is their average margin of victory. The Lions, with a margin of victory of 13.1, are very ahead of the rest of the pack, which does bode well since the team with the highest margin of victory has won 3 of the last 10 Super Bowls. However, 9 of the past 10 have been within the top 6 in the league in their Super Bowl winning season. Considering that, and adding back in the teams from the playoff pack, the top 6 margin of victory teams are the Lions, Eagles, Bills, Ravens, Packers, and Buccaneers. Since the Packers and Buccaneers were previously eliminated, we will keep that earlier result and thus eliminate those outside the top 6. Those teams would be the Vikings, Chargers, and the 2-time defending champion, Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, come on folks, a three-peat has never happened in the NFL. You think this weird Chiefs team is going to buck the trend? Continuing right along with our 4 remaining teams, we now have to look at simple rating system or SRS. Essentially, this is just a metric that attempts to gauge team quality relative to the average team who has a rating of 0.0. This adds together the offensive and defensive SRS scores to arrive at the overall figure. For reference, SRS finds the team closest to average as being the Rams, which makes sense. So, starting off, the last 10 Super Bowl champions, they all have had an SRS within the top 8 of the league. Looking at the entire NFL, the top 8 in SRS this season were the Lions, Ravens, Bills, Packers, Eagles, Broncos, Buccaneers, and Vikings. This includes all 4 of our remaining teams, so that's a good start. If we further break this down though, something we find is that none of the past 10 champions had an offensive SRS that ranked as first in the league. While I hate penalizing a great offensive team, we have to make some hard cuts. So sorry Lions, I think you have to go. Another trend we find is that a top 2 defensive SRS team has also not won a Super Bowl in the past 10 years. There was a 2-way tie in this metric with the Chargers and Eagles both having the highest SRS score. Another hard cut as we have to say goodbye to the Eagles. And then there was 2. You might look at this and think, so all you did was this just to say that the top 2 MVP contenders have the best shot at winning the season? Not exactly. I mean, I was fully expecting to run these numbers and find that Sam Darnold will really do a Nick Foles impression to come out on top this season. Still, seeing as the Ravens and Bills are the only 2 teams left, we need to find a way to figure out who will walk away with the Lombardi. While one way might be to look at how these teams did against other top teams. You are only playing the best of the best from now on, so let's see how each team performed versus the other teams in the playoffs. In games against other playoff contenders, the Bills went 2-3, being outscored by 15 points. The Bills did, however, beat the top seed in both the AFC and NFC, which should not be discounted. For the Ravens, they went 7-3, playing 9 of the other 13 teams in this year's playoffs. Their point differential in those games was plus 112. Not only did they play most of the other teams in the playoffs, they had dominant games. 5 of those wins were by double digits, while 4 of those were by 17 points or more. But let's add in the other 2 recently eliminated teams, the Eagles and Lions, just to see if they were also similarly dominant. The Eagles were 5-2 in their 7 games versus playoff teams. In those games, they outscored their opponents by 29 points. For the Lions, they were 6-2, so similar record roughly to the Ravens. In those games, Detroit outscored their opponents by 36 points. So with that point differential of plus 112, I will say plus 112 again, the Ravens are in a group all on their own. Not to mention the Ravens did beat the other remaining contender on my list, the Bills, by 25 in Week 4. And that's why, after crunching the numbers, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, I think the Baltimore Ravens will win Super Bowl 59. They have accomplished just about everything this season you would want, are primed to have a back-to-back MVP, and everything I've looked at makes it all but certain that they should be lifting the Lombardi in a few weeks. Still, as I said at the beginning of this, numbers lie. There are so many little intangible things that can happen, like does Derrick Henry get stuck walking through a door, or does Lamar need to run to the restroom but ignores it too long? The options for what can go wrong are endless. But honestly, there are 1,000,001 things that can affect the outcome of a game that we can't purely find in numbers. The Ravens still need to overcome the doubters and the evidence that Lamar isn't as good in the playoffs. The numbers don't consider that this is Zach Orr's first postseason as defensive coordinator. Will that shaky defense be able to hold its own and contain the best offenses in the league for 4 weeks in a row? Honestly, I am still not putting it past the Chiefs to complete the three-peat. Some teams are just destined to win, and the Chiefs feel like one of them after how they were able to pull together last season. You can never overvalue veteran leadership, the weather, coaching adjustments, if the center snaps the ball on time, and 30 million other things that can swing an outcome. Again, I am probably dead wrong and everyone will be clowning me for the next year. But hey, I'm willing to take the risk and I can't wait to see how it all turns out. Thanks for watching.